special series called Creative Echoes: Women Navigating Conflict Through Artistic Expression. This is a special series within the Bodyholic with D framework. We dive into the profound experiences of female artists in Israel amidst the ongoing conflict with Hamas. While I often discuss stress and trauma from a scientific perspective, the essence of the series lies in the genuine voices of those living through these challenging times. In a world where life in Israel and the experiences of Jews globally has become exceptionally challenging, we believe in the power of real, authentic narratives. Amidst the cacophony of male voices during wartime, we turn our attention to the voices of female artists, recognizing the cathartic and illuminating potential that their stories hold. Joining us today is the incredibly talented Naama Guggenheim. She is an international singer-songwriter based in Israel whose artistry adds a unique and powerful dimension to our exploration of resilience and hope amid the turmoil.
Naama Guggenheim.
Hi.
Hi. Thank you so much for joining me today and during this time that is extremely challenging for all of us. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
I want us to start just with you talking about who you are and yourself a little bit, giving people a little bit of background, and then we'll get into a little bit more of the nitty-gritty.
Sure. So I'm a musician. I am born in Switzerland, raised in the US and Israel, kind of year to year. It's a really funky and funny story, the way my adolescence developed, but eventually I would always call myself Israeli. I'm very proud of being Israeli, and I served in the military, and I was even an officer. So this isn't like a question mark around my story. And I'm a musician. I've always been one since age 12, developed fully around, I'm 33. Around age 23, I would say it developed fully, and I started going to music school and making my own music. I was a singer for a while in different bands, different projects, and eventually none of them really, I would say, blew up to the point where I was satisfied. So I kind of decided to give it a go with my own materials. I'd written stuff since I was fairly young, around 15, 16. I play guitar. I play piano as well, but back then it was mainly guitar. And then I started releasing my music. I would say it took a while to get the sound. Once I got it the way I wanted and the way the people around me liked it as well, it kind of started developing a successful route in certain genres in certain countries. And I would call my musical journey like a slow one. Like we're slowly growing, but definitely very proud of my accomplishments, and my audience has been growing.
That's amazing.
Thank you. I released my first album in 2021, and that was because things were kind of developing to this kind of slow grow and an audience that wanted to see me play live in Europe and in Israel, but in Europe. And I kind of was looking for doors. And because I am naturally an adventurous person, I started just, opening each door on this one. And I would say 2023 was my my step up year. Like it was definitely an exciting one. I had after a few solo tours in 2022 that were kind of small and like sweet in Europe. 2023 was definitely larger ones. I had a month-long tour in March, and in July, a 10-day one with festivals around Europe, and getting personal invites from really renowned radio stations in Berlin, and very, very, very exciting. And I was working towards a second album, and it's currently kind of being held back from different reasons, which we'll get into. But yeah, this is this.
Wow. I have to say, you're talking about 2021 versus 2023, and hearing that like 23 is a step up for you. You're currently, let me just make sure that everybody's clear on this. You're currently in Israel.
I am, yeah. I will. Okay, so this is a question I used to get a lot. Why do I used to get this from Israelis and Europeans alike. Why do I live here? Since I have
Okay.
this like international background, why would I stay? And I make music mostly in English, which is also changing a little bit. The reason is that I feel comfortable in my own body. So it doesn't matter to me where I stand, if it's in Israel, if it's other places. But I feel a certain connection to my heritage here. I'm a big believer in social connections, and I'm a big believer in God as well. And I am connected to those spiritual realms. And to me, being in an artistic city, a global city like Tel Aviv is very, very emotional. And it has the reasoning behind being in Israel is connected. Like to me, it's important. I want to be here. It's a choice. I would like to be connected and stay put in this country, in this city specifically. Yeah. No question.
And so the going back to, I'm listening to you talk about 2023 and your rising success. And, I, of course, we're meeting in such a time where I don't think any of us fully believe and comprehend what 2023 means. So I'm curious, and you already started touching on it. How did the events of October 7th, 2023 impact your journey? It sounds like it kind of put a stop on things. And is something evolving artistically in response?
Yep. So I was supposed to. So I work with an agency, a local agency in Austria, and we've been actively planning a tour in Europe, in Germany, Denmark, France, and Switzerland in April of 2024. And this type of thing takes time. You have to promote it. You have to release things, and sign agreements and create. It takes around a year, sometimes even more. There's a venue there that's been waiting for my show for I think about 2 years, actually, like a year and 8 months. So this was what was going on, and I was actually supposed to give an answer about a certain topic up until October 7th. So I was debating myself what to answer, what type of, funds or how I'm organizing whatever needs to be organizing throughout something that has to do with promoting that specific tour. So to me, it was kind of like a hole dug like midway, where I don't know how to even comprehend how to go on, because I'm self-managed. I do have different types of people who give me consultations or services. And I did not know what to do. So I was and these people, the people who I receive services from are not from here. So they have no idea what it actually feels, what war actually feels like. Neither do I, by the way. But I can kind of relate to what's going on. And they don't have the capacity to understand, for example, the things that might come out of this, which is, I would need security. I would need different things that all of a sudden are now more with kind of a light shed on them that I'm still in question with. So I would say a whole cloud of confusion around things that were planned. And I already have I wouldn't say half of my album, but almost half of my album recorded. So anything that has to do with, for example, mixing services and mastering services, which is kind of like the last stop before you release, that stuff costs money. And these are things I had to put a stop to. So they're kind of like floating, these songs that I'm so proud of, and the new developed sound that I had is kind of just like floating up there. I don't know if I'll ever release it. When's a good time to release it? Like I myself am not relating to those songs right now. So I'm kind of like, okay, what am I supposed to do? Like who can give me answers around it? Right now, I just kind of decided to put a stop to it. So that's in that sense. And in the creative sense, kind of immediately the things that come out are in Hebrew, which is not, I wouldn't say it's a bad thing, because I did this in my first album too. And I was already planning on combining languages. I combined languages in my first album kind of like as a seasoning, like a little bit here, a little bit here. And I was definitely in my creative journey growing on being the bilingual person that I am. So, and me and my brothers, we speak like half Hebrew, half English. And I was really set on creating that out there. Or like I speak some French, and I have some friends who I speak French with. So it was really important to me to have that global sense, but as if I was only like, a one language person. It was just kind of like Hebrew. I wanna make my Israeli identity clear. I want it to be out there. I feel like heavily connected to anything Israeli, Jewish right now. It's like really, really in my bones. So that's creatively, that's where I was going. So actually the only song that's been worked on lately is the one that I started writing about, I guess, a week or 2 weeks after the war started. And then, we're musicians, we're a community. So I sent it to some friends and we started producing it together. And it was all, pro bono. No one's like in the rush to make money out of it, which is very, very different than what normally would happen. But it was kind of like a healing journey. So that's also in the works. Hopefully I'll release it in the next 2 weeks or so.
Oh, good. Yeah. Good. Because now I can't wait to hear it. Yeah. Can you maybe, and this is a personal question, but maybe, and you can, steer clear, and however you feel is just fine. But can you maybe say a few words about your intersection between personal trauma and the creative process? And because I was listening to some of your music, which, by the way, is so cool. Like it's got such a cool vibe to it.
Thank you.
And like I can so see myself rather just listening to you in a club. I'm thinking New York, where right now, just like you're feeling, I'm like, yeah, let's keep it in Tel Aviv. And I'm listening and just like vibing with you, because it really is, everything you do has such a cool sound to it. And so I'm curious about the intersection between your personal trauma and the creative process, and how you express the emotions, and kind of taking it a step aside from the national crisis and
Yeah.
the international crisis, and kind of focusing on you for a moment. I'm what's interesting to me about interviewing artists who are very active in their art is kind of like the cathartic experience as well.
Yeah, I mean, I would say anything I write about or create music around, or not even just music. Like I wrote a poem a few days ago that I was like, okay, I have to put it up on social media. It's I write from a very personal standpoint. So even if it seems like it's like this national thing, it's mostly just me writing about my own experience, or me shedding light on an experience that feels like it's touching me. So that would always be, no matter what, that would always be my perspective. And yeah, and generally speaking, I'm a sensitive person. So I tend to kind of get a glimpse of someone's emotion reaction, and I immediately take it onto myself. So, and I'm an optimist. So I normally would want to look at the brighter side and see, like, for example, the song that's going to come out is like more about the love around it, like love in the shadow of war kind of thing, and like seeing all these like beautiful men who are all of a sudden in uniform, and it's like it's a completely different perspective, but it's still, I talk about the reserves. So it's still war, but it's definitely kind of like a dreamy type of scenario inside the situation. And I would say also, to me, there's a big difference between my songs who are a bit more stripped down, like I would say maybe a guitar or just a piano plus voice, or maybe a few little sounds, or kind of more natural sounds, as opposed to the kind of more quirkier sounding songs, which are a bit more my move between confidence and sensitivity is like, I guess that's where I stand. I'm always like either like, woo, let's do this, or just like hypersensitive within myself. So I would say like my creative process jumps between the two. It's either I'm like, let's do this, let's get this like really cool sounding feminine vibe going, and the sensitive part of like, I was hurt by this thing or that thing, or I'm still trying to figure this thing out. So creatively, that's where I always stand. And I guess like throughout the past month and a half within writing, I'm more on the side of feeling stripped down sensitivity, like not no masks, no like coolness around it.
Yeah.
Just putting out whatever comes out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I think vulnerability is
Yeah,
the
sure.
is the situation for maybe most people, but I don't want to speak for everyone, but that's definitely the vibe I'm getting
Yeah.
from my surroundings. And the challenges that the Israeli civilians during this period have experienced, the southern Israeli civilians and the people who went to the Nova Party. These are challenges that I personally can't fully fathom. It's immense, and the trauma as a nation And by the way, when I say nation, I want to be really clear. Anybody who defines themselves as Israeli. So it doesn't matter to me what religion. I think we're dealing with a trauma that currently is unbearable. Like we talk a lot about the fact that we're not post-trauma yet. Unfortunately, we've already seen consequences that are devastating from people who have survived. But in general, as a nation, we're not post-trauma. We're absolutely in it. It's just an unfathomable situation. And what struck me in what you were talking about was the kind of that optimistic point of view. And would you say that there's, well, my favorite word in the world is resilience. Would you say that this is that you're coping through the art, that it's a form of coping mechanism that is allowing you to kind of deal with the trauma and grow your resilience?
You know, it's funny. I think we're a very resilient nation to begin with because we're always being like so, well, not even just like a nation, just like even if like as you were speaking, the one thing that came to mind was Israeli women who we were like the amount of pain, the amount of like I can't even explain the severity of how rough it is right now to see what's going on, to even understand what's going on, because we've been through something that absolutely no one should go through. Like this isn't like a question. Like no one in the world, I stand behind this, should experience what we've experienced. And then on top of that, get victim blame and victim shame around it is absolutely terrifying. And it makes you feel like, whoa, I am alone in this world. And again, these are women who were resilient to begin with. I served as an officer in the West Bank, and I was an educational officer, which is not a very, combat thing to be. But because I was always, the one not going into the field, not going into the things that were going on, I was always the one guarding the base. It's called doesn't matter. I have trouble with military terms in English because I have them in Hebrew. So I was always the one guarding the base, and knowing what the soldiers, the female soldiers, what they went through. I know that a couple of years ago would have been the same person. I know that I would have been the only one with a weapon, trying to make sense of the situation, trying to guard my few soldiers who couldn't even fathom the situation, or me immediately seeing one of the videos, which I don't want to speak about, but one of the videos of the girls, and I was immediately like feeling like it was me. It was just like, wow, okay, I was that girl at the party a couple times in my life. I actually was supposed to be down south that weekend, and because it's a holiday and things, the prices rise because of the holiday, we decided not to go. So it was like a pretty good chance of me just, deciding to go to that party just because, why not? Why not? Right. This area of the South is the area of the festivals, of the parties, like is where things go on. And the week after that is Indie Negev, which is one of the most known festivals that I was actually like, I wasn't supposed to play, but I was like the last to know that I wasn't supposed to play. So a lot of my friends, international friends, were like positive that I was at that party. Because again, there's really no no reason for me not to be. So
Mm-hmm.
knowing that I may have been on, MDMA or certain drugs while experiencing something like this, that was like my first thought. I was like, damn, like these girls were, I will just say this, were brutally raped, were violently killed. And at the same time, the ones who survived are supposed to now like deal with this trauma, and the rest of the world feels comfortable shaming and blaming them for something that they were like so far from wanting to experience.
Not
So
only that, they were people of peace. They were people of, I mean, the exact opposite of what is happening right now and what they deserved. I mean,
exactly.
yeah, it's hard to take.
Exactly. So we kind of deteriorated from the question, but in terms of resilience, I'm aware of what my friends and what my family or what my society looks like. I'm aware of what this country looks like from the inside. I have family who's mixed. I have cousins who are Arab Israelis. Like, there's no question to me whether we're peace seekers or at the very least peace fighters and democracy fighters. I've been like since March, since I came back from my tour, I've been to every single Saturday demonstration against what was going on. And we can talk about it if you want, but with the current government, who I do not support at all.
Right.
But at the same time, like shaming us for making certain decisions or having a certain party in control and saying, okay, so that means we can deny certain things that happen to you, or even create a situation where that was valid,
Mm-hmm.
is just, it's a complete erasure of anything we could have even imagined. Like, this is a complete erasure of our lives, of our humanity, of our ability to even create a life. So I
Let me
have
just, sorry.
no, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, because I want to make sure that the context is clear. Before October 7th, there was a very, very big tear within Israel that I'm not sure everybody who's listening to this podcast is aware of, that may have or may not, have contributed to the October 7th massacre and the start of the war. And that was basically the people in control of the government right now have very extreme views of how the country and state should be managed. And so the people who went to the Saturday night demonstrations, like Naama and myself before I was really pregnant, I stopped going when I was super pregnant. But these are people who wanted to protect the democracy and the freedom of Israel, because Israel is the single one free democratic country in the entire region. So this was a very, very big deal within the Israeli society. And so this was like a huge turning point that nobody saw coming. So yeah, sorry, continue. I was just, there was that point where I wanted to make sure that everybody was clear on that.
You've explained it perfectly. That's exactly what it was. And yeah, and the fact that the rest of the world does not see the active boiling democracy we have, to the point where like we put a stop to a very, very dangerous decision they had around the Supreme Court. That was our doing. That was the people's doing. And you can question our government, you can question everything, you can, for sure, you can decide all these, point of views don't matter, but when you cancel the mere existence of our country, and I get exposed to this a lot because I don't mind putting my views out on social media, and that was not an easy thing to be doing. It was not.
No.
It wasn't easy. I would say my personal resilience was very challenged around that. Very, very challenged around that.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to put a stop to it a couple times and go private because,
Mm-hmm.
again, the mere existence of who I am fully, to say, yes, I am Israeli. I'm proud of my country. And I highly condemn whatever happened. And I also believe in peace.
Right.
So these four things are like, to someone who is just, has no idea what's going on here and is just here to I don't know, Americanize the conflict and create some sort of resistance that has nothing to do with what's going on, like literally nothing to do with what's going on here.
Absolutely.
Was a rough thing to come across.
Absolutely. And as far as I'm concerned, on a personal note, if you don't understand anything Naama just said, and you're listening with an open mind, and you're just then good on you, like way to go. And if the opposite is true, if you have something to say, but you literally don't know what is going on within the society and you're just listening, then maybe this is an invitation to either educate yourself a little bit more, which is a wonderful thing, or maybe just stay out of it. Like really just stay out of it. It is very, very harmful when people who are uneducated, who actually don't know what is going on in the intricacies of everything, it is very harmful when you speak out.
And there are so many layers to the conflict too. Like it's multi-layered would be like, the bottom of it. Like really,
Right.
I have a lot of education around the subject. I was very interested in it early on, before the army and after the army and in the army. I would
Right.
I would say, and I served in one of the most, like my military service was half in Hebron, half in Ramallah. So it was
very
like,
controversial.
yeah, I was like literally in the areas, and I still have things that I don't understand about the conflict. So obviously,
Right.
if you and I appreciate the outer perspective for people who are kind of outside of it, definitely. But I would make sure to, first of all, don't go too extreme, as in to take specific sides, because within the sides there are different sides.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So I would not be as arrogant as to take complete sides in it. But again, being pro human rights, being pro democracy is very important. But also note that this is such a complex issue.
Right.
This is like beyond anything anyone could imagine. And there's a reason why we've been in it for so long and we haven't been able to get a resolution in the area. Anyways, yeah.
Right. No, absolutely. And the I have a client and friend who is a German journalist, and she's brilliant. And she's talking to me just the other day, and she's saying she's talking to her colleagues from all over the world, and they're describing situations to her, and she's saying they don't even understand the difference. Okay, this is someone who is not Israeli, not Jewish, and just covering the stories. And she's saying they don't even understand that when they're talking about the Minister of Defense this is not the IDF. This is not the head of the military. Like,
yeah.
Right. And there are so many different layers. One doesn't stand for the other.
Yeah.
And yeah. And what I'm saying is the reporters, she was telling me her colleagues don't understand. And they're reporting to the layman who's just watching the news. And so, it's almost like really if you're uneducated and spreading the word, it's an issue. It's a big issue.
Yeah, and a lot of it is rooted in anti-Semitism. I will say it clear, like as clear as it gets. Plus, there's a lot of people most people don't really make the difference between, and it's not only Hamas, between Palestinians, civilians who are hurt themselves, and their leaderships. Notice I say with an S because they have a few. So they also there's this thing in there. And the fact that I saw a video yesterday that made me go nuts about so it's been raining the past 2 days. And there was a live on TikTok that someone did in Khan Yunis, which is in Gaza. And they were just living the city, the flooded city, the streets. And in my experience, it's like, so what are you trying to say? You're trying to show that you're this really, you don't even have the basic infrastructure for rain. But how is that my fault? How is that my fault?
Right. Oh, is that what they were saying?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right. Yeah. No, but it's very interesting because
a voice as if they're perpetual victims no matter what, and they're victims ours.
Where actually I'm a little older than you, and I took part, and this is really a conflict within myself. I'm dealing with it. I in 2005 was in the army, and I was part of the forces who were taking Israelis out of Gaza, of the area. And so this was when Ariel Sharon was the prime minister. And I'm going to also share my views here. I'm left, and I was very, very pro getting out of Gaza and making sure that the Palestinians have this space for themselves and they can turn it into their Tel Aviv, whatever they're going to do with it. And they got the funding, they got the freedom. We stayed out of it. And I got looks from people when we took them back to the base. And I saw this one mother who, we made sure she wasn't, because there were people who were trying to get back in and disrupt the whole disengagement. And I remember her look, and I'm in uniform, and I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, I feel so shitty with myself right now. She's giving me a look that I'm just like, oh my God, please don't do that to me. Because, yeah. But I firmly believe that this is their land and that they have the right to it, and we need to stay out of it. And I firmly believed that with all of the billions they were receiving, and that they were going to turn it into a cool place, but that's not what happened. And so I can honestly say to you that as someone who's dealing with all this now, I never thought that, so many years later, this was going to come back, almost 20 years later, this was going to come back to me and raise many questions. But I am pro-Palestine. I'm pro-Israel. And just like you were saying, Naama, how can you take sides? I am just very, very specifically anti-terrorism. I am very specifically anti-terrorism. I believe that the Gazans, the Palestinians, should have had a thriving, beautiful area in Gaza. And that's not what happened. And so, there are no specific sides except the people who need to be held accountable need to be held accountable. That is not happening right now.
Yeah,
and
we took it very politically for a second.
I was just thinking like and you know what? Honestly, I hope everybody listens to this episode.
That makes me happy because I was like, oh no, she did. That's not what she wanted.
Oh no, I'm not. I was actually going to say I'm not going to censor a word. This is going to go just like this onto the podcast. Mostly because I think you and I are also describing a situation that is very gray and that is not black and white. And I think that's so important. That is not what's being presented on any media.
For sure. I agree.
So I want to wrap up with talking about a few more words about using music as a tool for healing. Again, one of the reasons that female artists are so important to me right now and to making your voices heard is this is a very male dominated situation we're in. Okay. War in general is very male dominated.
Even though there are plenty of female victims and female heroes, in this.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the more the stories come out, I mean, anybody who's really getting into it knows that actually the one kibbutz that was okay, and that was relatively intact was thanks to a woman.
They didn't enter the kibbutz because she was intuitive enough to understand that something is going on, and she asked the person who normally would open the gates to keep the gates locked. So that's
and she was
many more.
Right.
There was a unit there's a female armored unit, Shirion, like how would you say Shirion? Anyways,
armory.
Armory. Female unit who like took down tens of terrorists in that area, like really kept their area safe. So just
there's the list goes on. And yet still the narrative, the voices that are mostly heard are male. And of course, I think a lot of the art has been put aside for now, just like you've actually experienced, like the put on hold of your album and tour. But I'm realizing that for me, I'm not creating art. I'm very like in the situation. I'm very I'm in full on mommy mode as well. And, I'm just, that's not what I do. But I find that turning to people who are creating is actually very helpful for my well-being. And I think that you have the tools for yourself to also understand things and use the situation in a way that us people, the people who are not, in the artistic creative space, we don't have those tools. So it's almost like we're turning to you because it is so helpful for our well-being, for understanding. And so if you just want to say a few words on that and the addressing the collective trauma through music, just to wrap up.
For sure. I would say like it depends which part. I would say the just singing and playing is very intuitive. You just kind of like you need to there's a real deep need to just release something out of your body. And with singing, there's something very unique to it that it just like comes out of your soul, and it has the ability to pull people in. So I would say singing wise, and again, like I can't completely say that it was easy for me at the beginning with the amounts of running the shelter and things like that. Like it took a toll on me also as an artist. Like writing was a little easier in the first 2 weeks than it was to sing. But I don't remember, 2 weeks ago, something like that, I was invited to sing at a ceremony for Sderot displaced families, and it was an opportunity for me to create some sort of connection to, just an invitation to feel. So you don't really need to say too much. You just have to choose an emotional song that might fit the situation. And there are I would say around 100 people, and you could just feel everyone crying. And it's just an invitation to kind of let go. And I would imagine, and I can't imagine because I was not them, I would imagine that being displaced from your city or from your home after experiencing something so traumatic would kind of either block you or just, you would completely fall apart. So I could really see, like at the beginning, people were telling me that we don't know if there will be an audience or whatever, but I could really see how much they were looking to cry together, to create this like kind of ceremony, of a spiritual ceremony around pain. So that would be the first thing to me, is that anything musical it's just healing. It's just healing. Like you just need a little bit of that. It immediately goes in your ear and like something calms down, or it brings it up. It could also bring it up, but in a way that you would, kind of let it out. So that would be the first thing. And in terms of creating music, it's a difficult one, because the things that have gone through my system are, I would say, as normally they do, mostly as a feminist, mostly the pain that a lot of the women went through and are still going through, because we still have almost 240 hostages, and it isn't easy for me to reach that area. See, like in a second, I like just imagining what they might be going through, and the kids. It's been rough. So once in a while, I like sit down when it kind of gushes out of me. I sit down and I write something from it. So that's what I did a few days ago with the poem, and learning some sort of guitar riff that I really liked. And I'm knowing myself, once I feel safe enough to let out my perspective, it'll come out. Yeah. But it's like, I would say it comes out in stages. If it has to do with people outside of me, then I am the first person to create a hub of love, mostly around the singing part and around the writing and creating. I can't say it's an easy time for that, but it comes out once in a while. Yeah.
Listen, I enjoyed talking to you so much. And I honestly hope that, you end up flourishing from where we are now. I know it's hard to see it right now, but I believe that's coming for you. And you are just absolutely so sweet. I'm not going to censor a thing. This is going to go straight to post-production. Everything you said, I feel has to be heard. And I greatly appreciate everything that you have said. And thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me, and it's been a great conversation for me too, just to like let it out and speak about the things that have been on my mind. So thank you for the conversation and the opportunity.